Come on in, folks. Come on in. Take your front seats. You're looking very pretty. I guess you're working out. You're looking fit. Get your beverage ready. And then we will begin the show that we deserve. Right? We will have the show that we deserve. Let me just go live on LinkedIn. There I go live on LinkedIn. And then I'll just send a message on WhatsApp to people. Thousands and thousands of people on my WhatsApp who join me for my writings and then get videos for free. Right? Good morning, Nishant. Audible on YouTube, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Wow, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Thank you for the quick yes. So I'll just send this message to people on WhatsApp. And then we will begin the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. You know what? People don't like me sending this message on WhatsApp. So whenever I send a message related to Thinkers Frequency, some of the people exit the group, exit the community. They're like, we signed up for your writings, man. What is with this video thing? And that's how I lose my audience base. How do you like my style of losing the audience base? Do you appreciate it? Anyway, I'm done on WhatsApp. I am live on LinkedIn. And I'm ready to go. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinkers Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. And not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinkers Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. Before we go, we gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition? You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip? We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like hot water with black pepper in it. Today I also have Aparajita flowers. And here we go. Lovely. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. Such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. A lot is going on, folks. Donald Trump, Mr. Trump gave an interview yesterday. And he says that we need the H1B guys. I mean, we need the immigrants, we need some talent. And he was getting interviewed by Laura Ingraham, Miss Laura Ingraham from Fox News. She's a right-wing political commentator, journalist, you can say. And she said, we have talent. And he said, no, we don't. No, we don't. You can't stand outside an unemployment line and ask those people to say, you're getting a job, we're going to make missiles. This is exactly what he said, so it's not a joke. He said you can't be outside an unemployment line and say that, hey, you're getting hired, we're going to make missiles. This is a very specific play. This is, you need specific talent when it comes to things like these. And you need immigrants for this. I know you and I differ. So, Laura Ingraham, if you don't know US politics, she's a Fox News anchor. And she runs a Laura Ingraham show. Just like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was earlier Fox News, right? So he used to run Tucker Carlson Tonight. Similar to Tucker Carlson, there's Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Greg Gutfeld. So all of these people are US right-wing political commentators. They are very popular. Okay? So he says, I know you differ with me on this, but we need it. And then he pointed out the influence of, let's say, the situation of South Korean guys. You remember? We discussed, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that South Koreans set up a factory in US, right? And in that factory, there were like 5 to 600 people, and all of them were South Koreans. So US wanted countries to invest in US and set up factories in here. So in there, I mean, so that they could hire Americans, but instead, South Koreans had, uh, you know, uh, they didn't hire anybody. They just brought 500, 600 people from South Korea and they were working. So they talked about deportation. He said, you can't do that because these people invest in the country and there's a very specific training operation. It's a very specific training operation. And if it's there, only then Americans will be able to learn those skills. So he was very pro immigration in that interview. And because of that interview, Indian IT jumped a little because that was supposedly a U-turn from the anti-immigration spiel that these people were, peddling for a very, very long time. So Indian IT essentially became happy to hear that. I have a comment. Good morning, guys, says Mr. Sumanth Kumar. Good morning, Mr. Kumar. Sometimes I feel sad to be working for News Corp. You work at News Corp? And why do you feel sad to be working for News Corp? Why is that? Well, an unspoken rule, or let's say the sentiment, the most mainstream sentiment in this world is that people, wherever they are working, they are not happy. They feel sad to be working wherever they are. Anyway, so this happened, which essentially helped Indian companies, IT, at least their perception. The markets also bias news all the time, says Mr. Sumanth Kumar. Well, all news is biased, Mr. Kumar. I'd like to push back on that. So, expecting a media organization to be balanced or to be both sided is just, it's naive. Is BBC not biased? Of course it is biased, right? It has a leftist tint. CNN, ABC, MSNBC, they're all left tint, right? Fox News, it is right. So every news corporation in this world, before social media, because analysis used to be, you know, it couldn't be dissected as much. Live TV happened and then there was no traces of it. People often used to feel that the news is essentially fair and balanced and it has both sides to it. But as time went by and as dissection and analysis of that news happened, people realized that there is no news that is balanced and it's not possible to be balanced. So even if you're running a media organization, you have a bunch of backers, right? The kind of people who advertise, the kind of people who watch, and the kind of people who support it. So what you can do is try to get both sides, but there is going to be some tilt, either left or right, you know. And as that tilt happens, that tilt is gonna reflect in your readings of the situation. So there's nothing balanced. So it's about which side you want to pick, right? The whole aspect of even in Indian news operation, there is nothing balanced. There was nothing balanced. So people used to be liking NDTV, right? And most people who liked NDTV were leftists, right? They were left liberals. And before the ruling dispensation, there was not much right wing activism in the news media. But then all of the CNN, uh, Times Now, and all of these people started center right? So they started tilting right. So it's just, and then you had pure media corporations like Z who were always right, and then everybody started tilting right, and then a few people were left, right? Unfortunately, in India, there is no left uh, outlet anymore because NDTV got acquired by Adani. So they are, even though the editorial board is still, but of course a lot of organizational change has happened. So it's also changed. there is no left wing play anymore. A lot of it is gone. So we have a risk of being very, very right as far as our media ecosystem is considered. But at the same time, if you look at the print guys, the online guys, they are all, the prominent ones are all left. So if you look at the Wire, the Scroll, the Print, and all of these people, they are very, very left, right? And that's how it is. So First Post and all of these new age players, they're super left. So and even if they pretend to be balanced, it's just a joke. It's a funny joke. But anyway, we digressed. Uh, Not anymore after Adani bought NDTV. Correct, correct. That's what I said, Mr. Kumar. So this is what happened with Mr. Trump, and a lot of work happened on Russia. Russia is, by the way, issuing bonds based on yuan, right? It wants to have some sort of, it's a fundraising activity. Russia is not coming to the negotiation table because the Donetsk region fight is still on and it's gaining some grounds. I mean, I'm a little unimpressed with Russian progress as far as this war is considered. I mean, being such a big power, you would have expected them to actually do something, right? Substantial, but they've not been able to. Yet, the pressure is all on Ukraine, and they are where they are. Speaking of Ukraine, there is a lot of graft allegations, a lot of corruption. Ukraine is super corrupt, extremely corrupt. So all of those corruption allegations have led to a firestorm, political firestorm in Ukraine. This could be an opportunity for anti-Ukraine, or let's say pro-Russian forces to establish some sort of ground, right? Let's see what happens there. A lot of action when it comes to Pakistan and Afghanistan and so on. So the whole geopolitics is pretty much where it was. Only that the American business ecosystem or the finance or economic ecosystem looks to be very, very shaky. The numbers say that then we'll never know the CPI and job numbers of October because of the government shutdown and so on and so forth, and they won't be released. So generally what happens is when you have a shutdown, after the shutdown is taken care of, you get the numbers. uh, uh, they're a bit delayed, but they're not gonna come out with. So people are suspecting there's something wrong with the numbers, right? Nobody knows. Speaking of what nobody knows, a lot of action as far as the whole play is considered. Dr. Burry is saying that he's gonna come out with a set of writings. It's a blog kind of a situation. 25th November, he's gonna be coming out with a blog. He's gonna be putting out his contrarian writings, which are awesome, right? He is originally a writer. I mean, began in finance. He started in finance because of writing, so that's amazing. Uh, at the same time, Palantir went down 5%, about 5%. So his short essentially isn't really out of the water. He corrected his positions as how much, what's the state of his shorts. People are saying it was 912 million. He says no, it's basically 9 million or 91 million. Basically it's much, much lesser than media was anticipating. But the stock situation is still on. Bitcoin is falling. MicroStrategy, which is basically a proxy of Bitcoin, it is falling. It's falling off the cliff, right? Bitcoin is also not doing so well. Bitcoin, as I've said, is a leading indicator of what might happen to the financial institutions, the formal ones. So if Bitcoin is going down, you might see whatever is happening. At the same time, whatever is happening with Meta and all of these people, the whole capex play. Anthropic says that they're going to invest $50 billion in capex. So capex story is not slowing down. At the same time, the whole depreciation of capex is a concern that Dr. Burry pointed out. So a lot of action happening when it comes to the US macroeconomic play, right? No, there are a lot of problems. Everybody knows that, but nobody knows how to address them, right? Right now, their angle is how they want to protect themselves is just like keep the capex rolling, keep the capex rolling. So that's Mr. Debuyati Hazra says MicroStrategy is rebranded as Strategy Inc. Okay, yeah. The ticker is still MSTR, right? So that is that. Moving on, folks. A lot of action happening in the earnings play. Uh, a lot of earnings out. Naukri came out with its earnings. 800 crores revenue rose Profit jumped. Naukri is doing really well. Despite the uncertain hiring environment, despite all the problems that exist in the hiring space, its revenue, the hiring business revenue really went up. Uh, let me fetch the numbers for you, the exact numbers, right? Yeah. 805 revenues. Naukri parents net profit 4x 347 crores, right? If you look at the hiring revenue, it was 563 crore. Total, no, I'm so sorry. Revenue from recruitment grew to 582 crores, 13% year on year, right? The real estate portal 13%, 115. Then Jeevan Sathi and Shiksha 30% at 100 crores. So they are being able to grow a business very, very nicely. Sales driven operation, heavy sales, doing a lot of work for them. Mr. Hitesh Oberoi says, even though the environment remains uncertain, we are cautiously optimistic about what we can do. Uh, Hitesh Oberoi, sir, is, by the way, a thorough gentleman. If you ever have the pleasure of meeting him, you'd know what, raw intelligence, humility, and a sense of humor feels like. I mean, my co-founder at the time in 2018, we went to his office. So much might have changed since then, but he called us to our office, very humble, and billion-dollar company, right? Such a great company. Not a billion-dollar company, $10 billion company. At that time, it was probably 5 billion, whatever. So it's his office was very small, very small office. We're just my friend and I and he. That's all. Three chairs. That was enough. And such a humble person, such a sense of humor. At that time, Swiggy and Zomato, it wasn't a clear fight. So he was very like कुछ नहीं पता इस business का, अभी Swiggy ऊपर है, अभी Zomato ऊपर है. And he was so aware of his let's say limitations about what can happen, right? The unknowns that we keep talking about. It was like कुछ नहीं पता यार हमें, we try to do our best but nobody knows कल क्या. And it was so awesome. So he's again, his commentary is always nice to hear. That's what's happening with Naukri, and a lot of people have come out with their earnings, good earnings. Nobody has reported bad earnings. I mean, there are a few people, but more or less, India Incorporation is doing well. There is a comment by the class apart. I guess it's Mr. Barun Sharma. Maybe because it's harder to get hired, they're earning from their premium plans. Yes, of course. Uh, it's harder to get hired, and they're earning from their premium plans, and their sales operations are doing well. And even the real estate play has grown to some extent, which is okay, but not a lot. By the way, Jeevan Sathi and Shiksha, still very small businesses, 109 crores in a quarter, right? Not a lot, not a lot. Moving on, folks. Uh, so that's what's happening at the car companies. By the way, in Indian economy, they are looking at an expansion. They are looking at volume expansion, expansion of production by 20 to 40%, which means that the Indian car consumption problem has been solved by the government because of the GST rationalization, right? That is good news. So all the companies in the frame, Maruti, Tata, Mahindra, they're looking at 20 to 40% rise in production. Speaking of Maruti and Tata, Tata's demerger is set. Tata passenger vehicles, Tata commercial vehicles, they are separate. They've gotten listed, right? I guess the bell got rung. Tata Commercial has great avenues of growth. Earlier, Tata Commercial used to be the play, which sort of was the cash cow, and then passenger vehicles was where the investments went, right? Now, Tata Commercials is going to have its own separate journey, and that demerger has been in the works since 2017-18. Now it's on, so you're going to look at that. A lot of action. When it comes to consumption, smartphones are also up a little. So it's a multi-year high, much higher, 44 million or something of that sort. But for now, right, the outlook we discussed is in gray. You don't know what happens in the future. However, for now, smartphones are looking cool. So this is the second order effect of the GST rationalization. You don't need to solve everything, but if you surround the solutions, like let's say this is the problem, smartphones are the problem, but then you make everything else cheaper. So this particular thing gets an effect. So second order effects of GST rationalization still playing out, right? Surprisingly, speaking of the consumption story, Asian Paints results came out and they beat expectations. Despite whatever is happening in the paint business, you know what's happening in the paint business. A lot of action, a lot of competitive action. Akzo Nobel got acquired, right, by JSW guys. Uh, and Birla also came out with Opus. So people expected these people, Asian Paints and Berger, to get screwed. They were getting screwed. Reliance sold their stock in Asian Paints. However, things went well for these guys, right? And this particular quarter, they did really well. Uh, so despite whatever is happening in the consumption, the paint play, right? They've been able to watch out. So that's pretty awesome, right? Uh, that's more or less on the domestic uh, businesses front, right? A lot of action happening in that area. Let's talk about the economy. Inflation numbers came out. Inflation at a record low of 0.25% amidst cooling food prices. Uh, Inflation going very low. It's almost deflationary zone play, right? 0.25% is nothing. A lot of idiots might come out and say that this is a cooked number, right? That inflation cannot be this low. They don't have any idea. Don't listen to those guys. They're idiots, right? So the the inflation number is actually pretty easily verifiable. So if you don't trust the inflation numbers, you just look at the basket of the composition of the whole inflation, which is called the inflation domestic consumption basket, and you see how much weightage they are giving to each component, and you check out those components, the market rates, right? So if you go to the mandi or if you go to places, right, you're gonna find out, ask them what it was costing, or let's say pick out numbers of 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and then you can calculate the growth or rate of growth of the food prices, right, or everything else basically. And what is not counted in the basket is not counted in the basket. So let's say if home loans get expensive and real estate is basically picking up, and everybody says, oh, homes are expensive and so on and so forth, but homes have a different play, right? Ultra premium housing and so on and so forth. So this is a very verifiable play. The side effects of what this is going to be, that when a lot of deflation happen, when inflation falls below a certain degree, a lot of people start losing jobs, right? Because their pricing uh, leverage goes out, the margins get thin, right? If margins get thin, India is still a very agrarian economy. People lose out on jobs. So what can you do in that regard? You can sort of uh, you know loosen the rates, right? You can basically do a repo rate cut. What repo rate cut does is it supplies the money, it supplies the market with more money, because lending becomes cheaper. When lending becomes cheaper, more money flows into the market, inflation goes up a little, growth goes up a little, right? That is what RBI is evaluating in December. However, a lot rests on how India and US trade partnership evolves. So those are the two things that RBI is going to be looking at while thinking about the rate cut. December, you could have a bit of a rate cut. Experts say any rate cut in December hinges on growth and US trade deal. So that's what's happening, right? Moving on, folks. Speaking of Indian and US connection, right? Exports have gone up a little, 3.3 to 4%. An exports package of 45,000 crores is announced. Again, this is very well discussed already. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know how it goes. The way to deal with the tariffs is to find alternate markets, is to offshore, is to create a robust domestic consumption, is to find better financing, credit access for exporters, and what else can you do? So the government has essentially done and filed alternate markets. Did I say that? I don't know. So this is what the government is doing. This particular play is a part of the financing, angle of the story. 45,000 crores. 22 package has two components: 25,000 crores export promotion mission will run for 6 years, and 20,000 crore for collateral free guarantee scheme. So collateral free guarantee scheme is the part of the financing play, right? So that is what's going on. A lot of action when it comes to export savings, right? People want to save the exports, of course. India, US are currently at $100 billion kind of a partnership, right? Trade partnership. India wants it to go to $500 billion, and maybe the deal announced that in the near future. Speaking of interesting deals, Biocon and Biosimilars arm. So biosimilar is how do I explain it? A biotechnologist might be able to do a better job, but I'll tell you. So biosimilar is a live play. Okay, let's say a live organism. You synthesize a similar of that. So no, this is not the right way to explain it. Uh, Let me just check it out. So it's a medicine highly similar to an approved biologic medicine that's a reference product and has no clinically meaningful difference. So okay, so biologic medicine, it's basically a similar product to that. It's slightly different from the synthetic product of it. So biosimilars, if you're talking about microorganisms. So I'm not a biotechnologist, but that's how you look at it. So Biocon and Biosimilar division of Biocon, it was a part of the company. It got demerged, right? So Biocon and Biocon Biologics essentially, now are looking at a remerger essentially. Okay. So Biologics acquired Viatris Global Biosimilars business for $3.3 billion. And now it was supposed to be the whole concept was to sort of have its own journey and raise money and so on and so forth. But now the company is valuing that particular division at 4.5 billion and merging it. And that's essentially going to help with, the acquisition related debt pairing. So there's a $1.2 billion debt overhang related to the whole situation, which is going to be paired. Sorry, my voice is breaking up. Why is that? It shouldn't be breaking up. Can you hear me now? My screen went black on YouTube, not on LinkedIn though. Yeah, am I back, folks? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Please give me a cheer. Perfect. So what happens is that it's gonna be a value unlock. The company was acquired for 3.3 billion. Now it's gonna go to 4.5 billion in value. It's gonna yes, we can hear. Great, great. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. So then this particular play is gonna help pairing the debt. There is of course a debt overhang, 1.2 crores. $1.2 billion. So merger talks follow an earlier IPO plan. So let's see, how that shapes up. Usually, when it comes to acquisition debt, it becomes a bit of an issue if it's taken away, right? So the companies have plans when it comes to their different divisions. Sometimes those plans don't really pan out in that way. When you acquire a company and it's an independent operation, the idea is to essentially raise money independently and take it up, right? But now they're basically merging the operation and going to raise money for a combined unit, maybe an IPO. So let's see what happens. June QIP issue 4,500 crores was raised to cut Biocon's debt, right? There was an earlier IPO plan, but now the merger is going to be on. Speaking of India Inc., Ben Vatsa, Fairfax, Prem Vatsa is called the Warren Buffett of Canada, even though the size of his holdings is very small, right? His son, essentially, Ben Vatsa, is going to be the chair of Prem Vatsa, and it's going to be a pretty similar investment strategy like of his father. Succession route clearly marked out. Book quotes from Prem Vatsa: not quitting, but shareholders must know continuity plan. So Prem Vatsa has invested a lot in India, mostly in the insurance play and so on and so forth. So that particular strategy is going to be continued, right? Let's see how it shapes up. A lot of action. Predictive analysis will drive Operation Sindhur 2.2, says Army Chief. He says, we are essentially studying the Russia and Ukraine war because that is the living lab, right? And a lot of drone action. So we are also surveilling drones. So this is one of the first few times we are hearing something on the drones line from our army chiefs, and they're talking about the importance of drone surveillance, radar jamming, and so on and so forth. So let's see what happens in that area. No news as far as new investments in the drone play as of now. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know how we've been drumming up the drone play. I wish somebody just announces a very, very good news. Moving on, folks. Any thoughts on Grow IPO valuation growth prospects? We've talked about this, Mr. Sumanth Kumar. Yesterday we talked about, there was news that, if you remember, yesterday we had a discussion. The report says that Grow's IPO pop might just be a very muted pop, right? Because Lenskart also went down. And I had told you that Grow, by the way, is a very solid company. So even if the IPO, pop is muted, it's gonna go very well. It's something like a invest and forget kind of a company, because the prospects are so green. There are very small ways, or very few ways to screw it up, that kind of an opportunity. And one is like promoter fraudulent behavior, there have been no signs of it. And yesterday what happened? As soon as we stopped, the IPO had a great pop, 14% they're reporting, right? So whoever got that particular play is going to be very happy. The company has like a $7 billion valuation, which is not heavy considering the prospects it has. It's one of the very, very good IPOs of the time, right? Especially when you look at it comparatively, whatever's coming out. Let's go, folks. Delhi pollution is still a problem, and Supreme Court is seeking a report from Punjab and Haryana on stubble burning. It's just a bunch of bullshit. Why do you need to seek for reports? When are you going to move away from seeking reports, right? When are you going to actually do something about it? Everybody knows why this is happening. Stubble burning is a very, very big issue. The whole map images are out, but they're just always seeking reports. It's been 10-15 years that they're just collecting reports. These pieces of shit. I'm not talking about just the Supreme Court, but everybody, right? Whoever is in charge for this. It's just... yesterday, there was a bit of a travel, and right now my throat hurts. It's so horrible. It's so palpable. Everything is so palpable when it comes to the whole pollution play. But they're just seeking reports as if it's something new, and they don't know. Every year, same story. Seeking reports, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. It's so disgraceful, right? They don't even have any shame when they're seeking reports. Moving on, folks. Panel backs fair pricing trading of unused capacity at LNG terminals. LNG is, they don't want unused capacity. They don't want wastage, or let's say idle time in the facilities, right? So that particular play, the government is moving forward, proposes more active role for regulator in curbing anti-competitive practices. This is an ongoing thing when it comes to energy distribution, energy harnessing, and so on and so forth. Government policy is all. We had a deep discussion yesterday about it, right? When we talked about the GAIL chief fighting against everybody else, right? When they talked about curbing GAIL's influence in the whole pipeline play, and he said it's not a good idea. So this is just a perpetual perpetual tug of war situation. Moving on, folks. Crude demand likely to zoom 37% by 2035. Whatever I said to you about 10-year projections, just ignore them. But you've got to read them for fun, right? Crude demand up to zoom 37%. Sure. NTPC plans 5 to 10 million tons coal to synthetic natural gas facility. This is once again a move in these things keep happening. I don't know why they're news items, but somehow it's important to read the macro terms. Bid to diversify portfolio to use high ash coal for companies' captive mines. So we are obviously focusing a lot on natural gas, right? In talks, states identify sites for moving its goal of 30 gigawatt of nuclear energy capacity. So the beauty is that NTPC is really looking at nuclear energy in a very big way, because 2047 Viksit Bharat has a nuclear energy ambition, right? And a lot of large nuclear reactors are being planned by NTPC in that area. Let's move forward, folks. There's Indus Ind accounting probe. Police finds no criminality by ex-executives, right? Of course, it's gonna be difficult for police to find criminality, but this is a perpetual newsmaker. From now on, we're gonna ignore Indus Ind stories, right? Do you think that's a good idea? Should we just ignore Indus Ind stories? What a bunch of bullshit. Moving on, folks. Andhra Pradesh and Tillman government have inked the 15,000 crore pact for Vizag data center. We talked about this. This was on cards. It's finally inked, right? The 300 megawatt hyperscaler project to come up 40 acres, creating over 1,000 jobs by 2028. So Andhra Pradesh is really doing a job after another when it comes to attracting investments and creating jobs and so on and so forth. There's a lot of projects which Andhra Pradesh is being able to do and attract, and the beauty is the speed at which it's being able to execute these projects. So it's just extraordinary what Mr. Chandrababu's Baba Naidu's government is being able to do. We've discussed a lot of stories in depth, but it's always good to appreciate things like these, right? Time and again. Moving on, folks. Finance Ministry is talking to PSBs. PSBs are reporting very, very good numbers. Provisioning is low. Asset quality is high, right? The profitability profile is very, very good of public sector banks. What the Finance Ministry wants the PSBs to do is, first of all, keep the low cost deposit momentum, right? And secondly, lend more to small and medium businesses, micro, small and medium businesses. Now, this obviously makes sense. Number one, the whole low cost deposit, it's gonna help the, basically credit reserve ratio. That's gonna help with that liquidity management. And the second will lead to capital where it's most needed. So how do you build a country, or how do you ensure the jobs go bottom of the pyramid in the grassroots? You lend to small and medium businesses, you micro, small and medium businesses. The more easy capital they have, the better it's gonna be. It's not just a top-down approach, right? Top-down is like when a few business houses make massive investments, that helps. But the bottom-up approach is when you funding down the stream, right? Small businesses, that's when the most economic activity, the healthiest economic activity happening. So ministry reviews H1 2026 performance. Public lenders post 93,000 crores in profit. NPAs, that is the bad loans, at a multi-year low, right? Provisioning at multi-year low. So NPAs declined to 2.3%. That is a multi-year low. So that's what's happening. Aggregate business of PSB stood at 261 lakh crore, with advances growing by 12.3% year on year and deposits by 9.6% year on year. Those were the numbers. Net NPAs declined to 0.45%, indicating continued improvement in asset quality. Return on assets 1.08%. So net NPAs 0.45%. That is very, very good. Right, moving on, folks. Stock markets went up. I told you why. tariff cut hope, and also NDA's likely win. The exit poll says that NDA is going to have a clean sweep. Continuance in the government, always viewed favorably by businesses. Uh, Bad countries, or let's say countries in trouble, always have political musical chair going on. But stable democracies are good for business, right? So that's what's happening. Moving on, folks. Life insurers see surge in pure protection demand. Exemption on individual life policies make term plans more affordable, encouraging first time buyers. So, what is the insurance perspective on uh, life insurance, right? When it came to reducing the GST, basically bringing it to zero for individuals. The Vikasit Bharat wants insurance for all, right? Right now, insurance penetration is very, very low. And this particular move has encouraged a lot of first time buyers. There's a few comments on LinkedIn. Uh, the new BBC exposure on edited Trump is hilarious. Now we know as no other option to cross check as we are newspapers, all biased and viewpoint. Hari Om and good morning, dear Nishant. Good morning, sir. Says Mr. Karthik Menon. Left is now digital India. It has not disappeared. Correct. So this is pertaining to the earlier discussion we were having. So yeah, life insurance doing well. It has new shoots of growing. Companies expect that going forward, the growth in the protection segment will be even higher. Well, good planning leads to good results. Life insurance, as soon as that particular number goes up, the penetration goes up, it signals an inherent strength in the financial ecosystem, right? People who are not insured, whenever something happens, it basically drains the family under debt, and that leads to a lot of problems. It leads to a lot of contagion effects, right? Second order effects of that family going under, and it's very very bad. Insurance that way becomes a very important product for a country's health, because you know, very necessary. And also, insurance companies work on the principle of float, right? Float. We've discussed this. Insurance companies are not about the net profit they make, but the money they manage, right? Float is essentially the money which you hold in your accounts, which is not yours, but you hold it. So you collect premiums, and that sort of money gets collected in your accounts, right? So you have a lot of this money, and then you invest this money outside, right? And you get returns. So that's the power of float. And then whenever an event happens, you have to pay. And even at a net level, the margins are very very low, so you might not be able to make, let's say, more than 5%, 3-4%, but because of the float, you earn. So more insurance participation from public leads to a lot of nation building, because people pay premiums, insurance companies get money. With that float, they invest in the country through equities and so on and so forth. Everybody benefits, right? So insurance is very important for the country. Let's move forward, folks. Fujiyama, it's a solar play. They are going IPO. 91%, even though they are solar manufacturers, so to speak, 91% of the import bill is coming from China. Showcases how deeply we are dependent on Chinese supplies. So when we say we are manufacturing solar, we are essentially just, assembling them. As Mr. Ajay Rai said, the founder of HCL, Ajay Chaudhary, sir, sorry. He said it's screwdriver technology, and he's right. Moving on, folks. Rupee swings shrink to 60 paisa. Active support from RBI. Active support from RBI in the form of forward short, right? So if you look at it, central bank short forward position increased 6 billion to 39 billion as it intervened in onshore and offshore currency markets. The psychological mark of 88.80, that is not to be breached, and that's why RBI is trying its best to essentially control. If you look at rupee's depreciation against dollar, rupee has moved between 83.77 and 88.80 in the tenure, right? In a very, against the dollar, the local unit has retreated 4%, reflecting the pressures brought about by punitive tariffs and relative performance of Indian capital markets. So a lot of problems when it comes to rupee depreciation. I wrote a very big article on how an investor told me that it's pointless for him to invest in Indian companies or companies registered in India, because taking the money out will be very hard, and you know, rupee is depreciating. So if he puts in dollars, he just loses 5% every year. So in 5 years, he would have lost almost half the capital. That was his perspective. All right. I wrote a very big article on it. It did very well. I hope you enjoyed it as you read it. I'm sure you read it if you're watching this. Speaking of companies, investments, and so on and so forth, LLP and company registration scaled record in first 7 months of FY26. New LLP registrations, new company registrations. Also, less companies dying, right? Less companies shutting down, less LLP shutting down. Now, my question is, do you see a problem with this analysis, right? Is less companies shutting down an indicator of resilience of the industries, or is it an indicator of something else? Can you guess, folks? This is an obvious question, and the answer is also so. The other play is that it's just very difficult to shut down companies and LLPs, right, in India. So it's very hard to shut it down. But they say that they've countered that an LLP shutdown time has come down from 2 years. Not easy to close a company, says Mr. Tushar Tiwari. Correct. They've said that LLPs, the closing time has come down to 2 months. But still, for companies, I mean, if you want to shut down a company, what you've got to do is you've got to write a letter, create it that way, and pause the bank account. And that bank account needs to have no activity for a year. Only then the company gets closed, right? So it's a very weird and long way of doing things. But they say that they've made it easier. So I never believe anything which says companies are not dying. The number says, and that's signaling growth. So it's not that easy. Moving on, folks. India, Saudi Arabia agree to fast-track investment. India needs all the money. Plan to boost exports of goods made by tribals. This is a part of the export play, right? Tribals, Indian tribals, and Indian handicrafts, and so on and so forth. They are organizing. It's been a lifelong dream of the current dispensation to have more exports coming in, happening from the tribal play, and that is, another thought in that direction. Numbers are not that green, right? I mean, numbers are not startlingly good. I mean, you won't be seeing that these have like exceeded expectations or something of that sort, but a lot of steps have been made in that direction. Yeah, so that's Mr. Peeyush Goyal. Moving on, folks. HUDCO has planned $1 billion to finance metro projects. So some interesting numbers when it comes to metro projects. India's metro network has grown from 248 kilometers in 2014 to 1013 kilometers in 2025, making it the third largest market in the world. And HUDCO essentially is Housing and Urban Development Corporation. It's in talks to create at least $1 billion pooled funds to finance metro projects. So when it comes to metro projects, there's something called TOD. TOD is Transit Oriented Development. So it's essentially when you create a metro project, there's also a lot of land outside, and there are ways to monetize it. So essentially that becomes a public-private partnership opportunity, which is what these people are looking at, right? Metro is growing in a lot of ways, right? Borrowing to grow by 20%, loan book to double by 2030. That's what's happening with HUDCO, right? Moving on, folks. India Inc. optimism grows on robust demand and tech push. Yeah. Moving on. Tata Steel profit up. Mobile sales rink. We've talked about that. Growing 4% on year. I hope I'm not missing out on anything. Alta Capital checks into Isprava with 100 million investment. Isprava is a part of Goa's luxury real estate boom. The Isprava group is getting $100 million investment from a private equity, largest fundraise by the 9-year-old company. Now it's moving to Alibag and other areas. It's already there, but it's expanding. a lot of action in Goa real estate, right? Indian cinema mines myths to tell cultural stories. So, looking at the success of Chhawa, Chhawa did 600 crores at the box office. Indian film industry is looking at, history. A lot of people call it Indian cultural stories, Indian mythology, and so on and so forth. Mythology. Sorry about the wrong pronunciation, but yeah, they are basically looking at that as an area. So let's see. They're saying that the technology has enabled them. The use of AI has made it easier for these movies to get made. Earlier, the sets used to be very expensive, right? Now, AI can create those scenes and it becomes an opportunity for people, right? Yeah, sure. Several historical films are set for release. Audiences are more interested in connecting with roots. Connecting with roots. Moving on, folks. Peak XV's gross share, we know about that. Peak XV is holding on, right? Firm deployed 30 to 35 million in Grow, making a 50x gain on investment, right? Recently, I don't remember who, but a VC posted that I reached out to these people, Grow people, when they were a 50 crore company, right? And if we would have invested, it could have been 1000x return. And like VCs, they just like to, praise themselves for the things that they did, the things that they didn't, how, it is such, how can any VC claim to be proud of, or let's say, boast his foresight investing in Grow, on investing in Grow? I mean, how can you claim to be like a visionary when you're just talking about investing in Grow at a 50 CR valuation? So 50 CR is above, at that time, 2017-18, it's about 8 how much is 50 CR? 10 million would be 80 crores, 70 crores. So it's about $6-7 million. That's when the business model has been proven. And there's Zerodha, right, which is already huge. And there's no competition in that area. It's one of the first few companies that are going in that direction. How can you think that, oh, I was so smart, I wanted to invest in these guys when they were a 50 crore company? But VCs have a way of doing that. It's so hilarious. Anyway, Mr. Debuyati Hasra says, I forgot when I last watched a Bollywood movie. No, I won't say that. So I'm a huge movie buff and I can give you a few recommendations. Huck was a good movie. Super Boys of Malegaon was a good movie. Taj Story was okay, right? Then there were other movies which did really well. If you look at Yami Gautam's filmography, Article 370 was a tight movie. And we do make good movies once in a while, right? It's just that the industry's going astray when it comes to vision for it, right? A lot of people are very, very weirdly wired when it comes to, so they want to make money, they don't want to make movies, right? But what they forget, that it's an art form at the end of the day. If you wanted to make money, you could have gone into finance, right? You could have been in Grow's business, or you could have been a broking business, right? Or something of that sort. Sell insurance maybe, right? You don't go to films because of making money. You go to films because you want to make films, right? And that's very important. But Indian film industry never takes that to heart. Nuremberg is also an interesting movie. Obviously not Bollywood though, of course, says Mr. Peeyush Sethi. I have not watched Nuremberg, by the way. Moving on. IT companies lock productivity win in Q2 with better revenue per employee. So if you look at IT companies, they've come out with their reports like Infosys dropped the revenue per employee, but since Tata and all these people fired people, right? So their revenue per employee has grown up by 0.1%, 0.3%, 0.4% in some cases. So if you look at revenue per employee as a proxy for productivity rise, right? Would it be fair? Would it be fair that revenue per employee can be a proxy for productivity rise for IT companies? It's in the range of 0.1 to 0.5%, right? HCL Tech leads RPE growth via AI productivity. So when they are boosting about AI productivity and so on and so forth, it's 0.1, 0.3, 0.4%, right? That's the rise. TCS 0.5%, Tech Mahindra 1% posted improvements. HCL did a 2% rise, right? Infosys fall in RPV by 0.7%, and so on. Wipro 4.7%. So that's what's going on. So all the claims about AI literally revolutionizing code bases, 0.2%, 1%, 0.4%, and so on and so forth. In some cases, even falling, right? So a lot of it is fugazi fugazi. It's a woozy, it's a wazi, it's a fairy dust. Can you get the movie reference, folks? Did you get the movie reference? It's fugazi, fugazi, it's woozy, it's wazi, it's fairy dust, right? Do you get that? Wolf of Wall Street, right? Moving on. JustPay has turned profitable. PAT of 62 crores. Wolf, says Mr. Tushar Tiwari, right? Honasa, the Mama Earth company, swings to 39 crore profit. 39 crore profit, right? With rising revenues, net profit stood at 39 crores. Loss of 18 crore a year. Sequential profit dropped 5%. And what is the revenue stage? 505 crore. Total expenses, 538 crore operating revenue. 538 crore, 39 crore profit. That's 7% net. Okay. Moving on. Mr. Narayan Murthy says research focus vital to build a better India. Narayan Murthy sir, yet again talking about research, seeks meritocratic supportive ecosystem for the young. The need for the day for our country is to strengthen our national and institutional focus on research for a better India, for a better world, he says. My question to Narayan Murthy sir is, sir, what did you do? What did you do in that domain? You know, you talk about 18-hour or let's say 80-hour work days and so on and so forth. Who are people who want to work 80 hours or 100 hours a week? They are startups, right? Why didn't you invest in startups, right? You never invested in startups. Infosys had no venture fund, right? In 2014, Mr. Vishal Sikka came along and that website has not been updated in 10 years because you didn't really invest in any company, right? Barely any investments. Even though Infosys always sat on cash, you always sat on cash. You never invested in startups. You never really invested in any R&D based products. When it came to supporting the Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem, you set up Catamaran Ventures, which was essentially a fraudulent front for Amazon warehousing. That's what you did, sir. So when you talk about research, when you talk about startups, when you talk about 80 to 100 hour work weeks, why didn't you do anything in that area? That's a sincere question. So I don't mean to criticize him for nothing, because he's done more than anybody, right, in helping the country. In a way, he has contributed immensely, so that is all respected, of course. But it just feels very weird to see this coming from him. It's just, because he literally did nothing when it comes to supporting entrepreneurs, despite having a 40-year-old history in the space, right? And nothing as far as research as well. Is it a fair characterization? Am I being too obtuse or rough with my reading of the situation? I mean, no disrespect, right? All the credit where it's due. Created companies, millions of people got hired, but that was essentially a manpower job, right? Manpower shop, right? Do you feel the anomaly as I do? Mr. Sumanth Kumar says, why don't you try acting, Nishant? Why don't I try acting? Yeah. There is, a production house. They're making a movie and they want me to act in it. It's funny. It's my friend. So we used to make short films. When I was in college, I actually made a short film. My friends at the time who made short films with me, they are now in TVF, Rusk Media, and so on and so forth. So they are professional filmmakers. So it's funny that you said that. A lot of people tell me that, hey man, you all do all these impressions, right? You should do this, you should do that. Thank you. Unfortunately, I have a face of a writer. Moving on. SpiceJet numbers came out, folks. Net loss widens to 621 crores. Again, very, very tough times for SpiceJet. Not just SpiceJet, but all the airlines, right? Difficult times. because of the whole crash situation and everything that happened. Very, very weird. SpiceJet is in trouble. Is in trouble. We've talked about SpiceJet in depth, so we're not going to repeat it ourselves if unless somebody wants a refresher. But they are hugely in trouble, right? Moving on, folks. Did you know that China had a Bitcoin heist of $13 billion? $13 billion of Bitcoin heist. They say it is not a criminal activity. It is US, essentially. It's a government effort which has stolen this $13 billion. So that's what's going on. There was this heist that happened, cybersecurity lapse, which led to a $13 billion Bitcoin play, right? China accusing America. Pani ki tanki ringtone. Yes, Mr. Tushar Tiwari. Siemens, by the way, is talking about cutting its stake in the $40 billion medical devices unit. MRI maker, $40 billion stake cutting off. Siemens is, of course, the German play, precision manufacturing, high-end equipments. It is obviously having cash, it needs to strategize its way forward. So this is a step in that direction. Finalizing the options to reduce a majority stake in its former medical equipment unit with a $45 billion, after a $40 billion holding turned into a drag on its share price, right? So these people never expected China to catch up on this particular play, but it did. And now, some financial engineering will have to happen. Speaking of financial engineering, investments and so on and so forth, Toyota has opened a US battery plant and it's confirming a $10 billion investment in America, right? $13.9 billion North Carolina battery plant ramps up hybrid production and plans to invest $10 billion in over 5 years in US manufacturing. The plan was announced in 2021, 2025, it's materialized. So Make in America is working, tariffs are working, everybody was wrong, and who was right, right? Trump was right. You got to give it to him, right? First of all, you got to give it to him for the sense of humor. Nobody likes to say that you can't expect people in, who are outside unemployment lines to suddenly say, hey, you are hired, we are going to make missiles. That's not how presidents used to talk. That's a good sense of humor. And then whatever tariffs wanted to do, they are achieving, right? $125 billion from pharma, announced, a lot of announcements in data centers, a lot of announcements by the automotive players and so on and so forth. So a lot of people are indeed making in US, and that should be appreciated. And what must be appreciated is how wrong everybody else was. So when everybody said tariffs are not going to work out, tariffs are a bad solution to an actual problem, and so on and so forth, they just fundamentally missed the aspect of price elasticity, right? Price analysis basically price responsiveness of products for a particular consumer base. They expected that when tariffs are going to be applied, people are just going to raise the price and sell to Americans, right? And they didn't factor that there is something called price responsiveness, right? It's not that you increase the price and people are going to buy that product. A lot of things start happening, and the response to that essentially leads to a lot of problems for whoever is selling. So when US government put the tariffs on, price was absorbed by manufacturers, distributors, exporters, everybody else, and the rest, at the end, the price which went to the customer, if it was too much, the product started slipping away, and then people got incentivized to invest in America. So if you look at Toyota's earnings, if you look at Honda's earnings, if you look at every automaker's earning, these Japanese guys, the net went down, right? The revenues went up, but net went down because of tariffs. So it's not like they just, were happy. They made the money as they did before. They actually had to sacrifice their net to keep the revenues where they were, right? And that is essentially what the tariff intended, right? So now pharma is going to be making in America, auto is going to be making in America, steel is going to be making in America, right? So a lot of action is going to happen, and that's exactly what he planned, right? Speaking of a lot of action, folks, Mr. Musk has come forward and he says that he's going to be building semiconductors. Did you know that? So he says that he can actually play in Nvidia's turf and win. So he's come up with a plan which is so huge it's hard to visualize. But he says he's going to go in and he's going to reduce the cost by 1/10. So he has a way to do it cheaper. So this is exactly what Mr. Peter Thiel essentially pointed out was a possibility, that sooner or later hardware play gets, competition, and then its margins start getting eaten away. It gets commoditized, and that's exactly what's happening. So maybe Mr. Musk is successful, maybe he's not, but competition is closing in. With that competition closing in, do you think Nvidia will have the monopoly it has right now? Hard to say. Mr. Peeyush Sethi says he always has to go for the highest and biggest apples of the tree. Yeah, absolutely. And semiconductor, right? He knows where the money is. So he's been spending a lot of money on XAI, and that's obviously not immediately profitable. And he has a background in hardware. He does most extraordinary hardware, right? 90% of profits are going to just one company, right? Nvidia. That chain is an obvious move, and it's happening. So let's see what happens in that area. Maybe Mr. Peter Thiel turns out to be right. But if you turn out to be right, but much later, does it count? Right? Does it count? That's debatable. With that, we come to the end of the 168th episode of Thinker's Frequency, folks. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:21. We should punch in anytime. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. And I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Right? I should thank Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Mr. Sumanth Kumar, Mr. Debayati Hazra, Mr. Barun Sharma, Mr. Nitin Kim Nitin. Oh, I was just reading as Nitin Kamath. And I'm like, Nitin Kamath sir watching Thinker's Frequency. But it's Mr. Nitin Kim, Ashutosh Bhandekar, and Mr. Tushar Tiwari, and everybody else who joined, right? Mr. Karthik Menon. I hope you liked the show. I hope you had fun. It added value to you. It definitely added a lot of value to me. Share it, do whatever you can. I hope you're enjoying, by the way, whoever's watching late. Now we get that whole sections, right? It's a proper indexing which is done with every episode. We're also going to come out with shorts. We have a lot of shorts we're going to come out. I need to ask you a question. Should I upload the shorts in this very channel? Or should I create a special Thinker's Frequency clip kind of a play? Because if I populate this channel with all those clips, my music will suffer, right? And all the very high production value stuff I do, the music and these expensive episodes that I sometimes come out with, they'll get diluted because Thinker's Frequency will have a lot of clips. So that's what I'm wondering about. But with that, take care, folks. Have a beautiful day. Cheers.